Hello, my name is Johan and this is the River Ljungan in central Sweden. I represent Scandinavian fly lines and we design and develop fishing tackle and lines for modern fly fishing. When developing new lines, we have to do a lot of tests to evaluate how well a new line performs. When we do these tests, it's important to use a casting technique that minimizes the cast's impact on the cast and instead maximizes the performance of the rod and line. Therefore, we must be able to perform a cast that uses as little energy as possible and instead lets the rod and line do the job of casting and presenting the fly. We also get many questions from fly fishermen about casting techniques and what to consider when using Scandi shooting heads with the double-handed fly rod. Therefore, we will present some tips on how to improve your fly casting ability with the double-handed rods and shooting heads. I will explain two important elements that are essential in order to perform an effective cast. They are loading the rod and anchoring the line. There are two ways to load a two-handed fly rod. The first method is what we call the push method. This means that you use the upper hand to push the rod in a forward movement to load it. This is probably the most used method among fly fishermen today. The reason being that many begin to cast with a single-handed rod and then use the same motion to cast with a double-handed rod. I will show you the push method. This means that you have hold the fly rod like this, and to create the forward cast and to load the rod, you push with the upper hand, with the lower hand more or less still. And it looks similar like this. Using the push method is okay. You will probably get the line and the fly out and you will catch fish. However, it has some disadvantages and will prevent you from developing your fly casting ability with the two-handed rod. First, it requires a longer motion to load the rod. This means that it's harder to perform a straight line during the forward movement of the rod. When using the push method, you start over here with the upper hand and then you push all the way about here, and during this motion you have to have a straight line throughout the whole movement. And remember, it requires just a small movement to either the sides or up and down to affect the cast negative. Secondly, it is difficult to perform a distinct stop of the fly rod. Why? Let me use an example. Imagine that you are going to chop an axe into a tree, but instead of hitting the tree, you must stop the axe just a few centimeters before. It's impossible. You will still hit the tree because the forward energy of the axe makes it continue to move forward. And even though you try to stop it, it will still hit the tree. So imagine, try to hit with an axe into a tree, but instead try to stop it. It will move forward. This is a similar situation when you use the push method and try to stop the fly rod. At the same time, your upper hand and rod are moving forward. You must stop the movement in a controlled and distinct way. This is difficult, and there is a great risk that the rod continues forward and you get an open and wide loop. The second way of load the fly rod, and the one that we recommend, is what we call the pull method. Instead of pushing with the upper hand, you pull the butt of the fly rod with the lower hand. I'll show an example. Remember, this was the push method. The pull method is different. Instead, you pull with the lower hand, like this. Just a small movement with the lower hand, even sometimes just using fingers to pull with the lower hand. This is therefore called the underhand casting, and was created actually in Scandinavia a few decades ago. There are advantages in using this method compared to the push method. Firstly, you have a shorter distance when loading the rod in the forward cast. Remember the push method. Then you use a long movement with your upper hand. With the pull method, you use just a short distance here with the lower hand. This means that it's easier to load in a straight line. Secondly, you get a natural, distinct stop of the fly rod, namely your body. The rod cannot go further in the forward cast. Your body stops the pull motion, and you will get a controlled and distinct stop of the rod. Let me show you. Just pull, and the body stops the fly rod. Pull, and it stops. The upper hand, when using the pull method, is more or less you aim the rod, you control the rod, and you stabilize the rod, and you load it down here, like this. The second important part of fly casting with the shooting head is anchoring of the line. This means that you temporarily place the leader and maybe some of the tip of the fly line on the water. This creates a fixed point on the line that allows you to load, well, what's called bend the fly rod. The anchoring of the line is a very important part of the cast, and it's often too little focus of anchoring the line correctly, and instead over focus on the forward cast. But a good forward cast never compensates for a bad anchoring. There are two important elements in successful anchoring of the fly line. The use of straight lines is important when anchoring. Therefore, try to place the part of the line that you anchor in a straight line in the direction you're going to cast. This you should practice a lot. It is important that you have full control of where to anchor the line, and you have the line pointing in the direction of the cast. The other important element is to prepare the rod for the forward cast. You do this in the final part of the anchoring movement by raising the rod slightly and place it in as vertical angle as possible before starting to load the rod for the forward cast. By doing this, you get two parallel lines that the forward cast will follow. One is the straight line of the anchored fly line. The other is the straight line the rod will travel when loading the forward cast. To better understand this, imagine a railway track where the outer track is the straight line of the anchored fly line. The inner track nearest to you is the straight line the rod must travel in the forward cast. There are many opinions about how and where to anchor the line. It depends on how long a fly line you use, how deep you wade, and how much space you have behind you. A basic rule is to anchor the line next to you. The rest of the line will form the D-loop behind you.